Welcome to this podcast of listening conversations with plants. Today I'm having two amazing beings with me, not in the house, but over a long distance. One is Nicole Gnutzman, who is joining me from Mexico, and the other one is Cacao. So we are here to have a conversation about ceremonial cacao with ceremonial cacao. And we'll see where the flow of today is gonna lead us. And so I am substituting sometimes at Keith's Cacao, the Power of Cacao. And that's where I really know Nicole from. So she is the one I'm substituting from. And so we've had so many amazing conversations about cacao with all type of people all over the world. So I just got so inspired to invite her into this format to continue the conversation and share it with even more people. So whoever is listening, you're welcome to join with a cup of cacao or water, or invite the spirit in the energy in whichever way. But this is really for us to open that conversation and see where cacao and our little circle takes us for today. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just delighted and honored, to be here with you, sharing cacao, taking it into our bodies, but then also talking about it because it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. And as you said, the power of cacao is Keith's cacao practitioner training. So we train practitioners all over the world to really come into personal practice and relationship with cacao. And then if they feel called to then share it, either ceremonially or even just with friends and family. Or we have such a diversity of our community now. We have life coaches sharing cacao. We have nutritionists. We have personal trainers. We have Reiki practitioners, shamanic practitioners, ecstatic dance practitioners. I mean, it is like just so beautiful to witness cacao being shared in these ways, because it really enhances and deepens everything. No matter whether you're drinking cacao before meditation or yoga or any of these other practices, you just drop in more deeply, you're more present, you're more connected to yourself and to whatever else you want to be connected to. So
Thank you for sharing that. And would you mind saying a few words about you and
Sure.
cacao, just to introduce?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I have been, I was first called, she came and found me in 2010, like 13 years ago. And in the moment, I didn't quite know what she was wanting from me. And we call her a she. She's a feminine sort of spirit, very loving and compassionate and kind and just holds us. And so I felt that call, that presence, and then immediately Googled, cacao ceremony online and found Keith in Guatemala. And I'm like, when am I going to get to Guatemala? I have a full-time job. So I just decided in that moment to really focus on learning about cacao and chocolate. And I actually became a certified chocolatier, or chocolatier, as they say in the United States. And so I really literally got my hands, dirty with cacao. It was so much fun. And anyway, that was the calling. And then in 2014, I found a teacher. Total synchronicity as it is in this world. And she was a plant medicine teacher. She'd worked with everything. And then she was called to cacao. And she's like, why would I work with cacao? I work with all this other serious stuff. Like, why would I work with cacao? But she did. And so then she offered this class, and I signed up right away. And she sent me a bar of Keith's cacao. So I didn't have to go to Guatemala. Guatemala came to me. So that was 2014. And I went immediately super, super deep. It was like a she worked shamanically, held cacao as a plant medicine. So that's how I held it from the very, very beginning. So it was very deep. And so as I, worked with cacao, she became my teacher, my healer, my guide. I started doing, sort of learning about shamanic practices, became a Reiki practitioner, and just started to deepen in my own personal practice to come into a relationship with cacao. And then, as happens, my friends started saying, "You're different. What are you doing?" Right? You're so shiny. You're so right. You've let go of things. And I went, yeah, I have. I'm drinking this thing called cacao. And so I started sharing it with them, and it just, we can talk more about that, but I allowed it to grow organically. Like she would just find the people that were called and wanted to share and wanted to invite me into their women's circles. And then I started to hold ceremony in yoga and meditation studios in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then I became a certified coach along the way, because I'm like, what do I do with all of these things these tools that I have? How do I present myself? So at the time, I presented myself more as a, soul's path coach, with cacao on the side, right? And I realized in my journey that cacao needed, I received the message cacao needed everything I do, everything. So even when I coach, we drink cacao together, right? But coaching is such a small part of my work now. So the cacao ceremony work really led me into working with other plant medicines as well. So I have a very rich, sort of deep offerings, and just follow where I'm meant to go. So
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I know part of your story, but it's nice to see some of the other perspectives on it, or hear more words.
yeah, thank you.
Mm.
And then along the way, I was asked by Keys Cacao in 2018, I believe, to develop their training program for practitioners, because there was no training. You would go to Guatemala, you would sit on the front porch with Keith, and you would stay for several months, and that was your training, right? So they wanted to take all of Keith's teachings and about ceremonial cacao and what it is, and about the history of cacao, and then we started to get into, Rick, really, the CEO of Keith Cacao, really wanted to talk about the science of cacao, like what's behind the magic, like why do we feel the way we do when we drink cacao. So I took a lot of Keith's content, and we did some more research, and we just built this beautiful program. And now all our cacao practitioners go through this program, and they love it. The community that they make is just so beautiful to witness, and they get to have beautiful, deep, rich conversations about cacao. So
Beautiful. Yeah, cacao came to me a little like for your teacher. So I was working with all these different plant medicines, and I heard about cacao, and again, I was like, why would I work with chocolate? I'm working with all this real stuff and like serious stuff and all this.
right.
And then it just came more and more. And then around the time when my father died, cacao really just came. And so in the kind of the depth of the winter, it was literally winter, but also winter inside of me. I remember my partner coming to me, and he was like, you know what, I'm actually nervous for you. I've been living with someone with depression, and this feels very serious right now. So I went to a summer house with cacao and some other medicines and just turned everything around. And from that point on, then I did the cacao, the Keith Cacao practitioner course at that time. So I went also straight to Keith. I was like, well, okay, what's going on? So I went there as well. Then I again thought cacao was going to be kind of on the side of everything I did as this other thing. And slowly, like you say, it's just like coming more and more into the center of everything I do, both with myself and my own practice, with the circles I lead, with the plant things I work with. And because I think for me, I really work in this intersection between taking people out on deep journeys in the forest or going to the jungle, and that's for weeks or for months. And then also saying, how do we work and embody this in normal day life? What do we do when we have children, when we're breastfeeding, when we're pregnant? How do we work? And also that, of course, we can connect with nature, with plants, with spirit, with medicine, with all this powerful medicine without it having to be away from the world, but going deeper, immersing ourselves deeper into it. And that's where cacao really has just taken over. And so what I'm really working mainly with cacao, well, with myself and everything, right? And my clients also in all the sessions that I have. But really I'm working with cacao to help introduce people to the Nordic plants. So I have like cacao and nettle ceremony, and then working with cacao is kind of the door opener plant to the world of nettle. And so cacao is really this guide for people to connect more with the land under their feet and the plants in their garden. And I really felt that also traveling in Mexico and in Guatemala and hanging out with Keith. Like I really, everywhere I went, I was looking for this magical cacao land. And what I found that I didn't, this little mamita sitting at a corner somewhere,
Yeah.
like her cacao, and nobody would know about it, but it was ceremonial and I could start importing it and she would sew my clothes or whatever, this kind of dream. Maybe a little kind of white gringo naivety. But really feeling everywhere I went on this journey where I thought I was going to go for months to Central America. I was going to study with cacao masters, and who came, and I didn't. I was like, Keith, now I'm done with him. Who came was Keith, and he also helped me remove my body of crazy parasites. So again, like, thank you. And then what came was cacao just being like, no, you sit with the land. You sit with the mountains. You sit with the lakes. Like, the land is the teacher. And so for me, it's always, that's the way I work with it also shamanically, but always as that door opener to the natural world, to the reality, which the magical reality, right? The reality that is magic. And so I'm sure there's so many beautiful teachers all around the world. But for me, she has been the teacher, and like saying, hey, you don't need a middleman between this,
Right.
And that's really what I'm trying to teach when I do courses with it. And when I really this, like, what we need to learn is how to listen. And cacao is so amazing at teaching us that. And of course, it's great to have teachers that are humans as well. And it's great to have community, and all that is amazing. But I also feel it's a time to learn directly from nature and not go back to the gurus and the patriarchal doctor standing on top telling you what's right for your body. And I think cacao is just such a powerful guide.
I think any of the plants, it really is through direct experience.
Yes.
Right. That we learn what, and are healed, and then embody whatever the lessons are. Right. So, and what I love about cacao is she's heart medicine, right? She opens our heart, expands our heart. But I feel like she's also soul medicine. Like she takes us deep into the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves to gently look at those things, right? And integrate them. And then she's also embodiment medicine. Like she, as you said, like she brings us back into our knowing, our body's wisdom, our inner knowing, our intuition. So all of that, it's like just this deep listening that she reconnects us to. So, she's like full like medicine. She reaches like every part of you. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when you talk about embodiment medicine, for me, one of the big teachings with cacao is also the nourishment, both in the physical aspects, right? But just like you're allowed to nourish yourself. I mean, so many people on this earth are half starving themselves on some type of quest of the perfect body, or ideals of different kinds, but this really like going where the enjoyment is, going where the nourishment is, going where the pleasure is. And I don't necessarily talk sexual, but just really going for
Right. Yeah.
the sweet strawberry in life, taking a bite of it,
Mm.
and it tastes good. I mean, how amazing is it to work with chocolate? It's just,
Right.
my inner child is just, yelling with happiness sometimes, like, I get to wear bare feet in the forest and eat chocolate all day. Like it's fun. It's like, yeah, that's pretty great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
She's also, the other part that I love is she's, you know, this working with other plant medicines. She's a beautiful integration medicine too,
Yeah.
right? To allow you to whatever you're working with and whatever the lessons are coming from those plants, is that she allows you to really sit in that and continue to work with it and integrate it. And then that of course leads to the embodiment. So
Yeah.
it's just amazing to see just the diversity. And what I often share with people that are beginning with cacao is she meets you where you are.
Yes.
Like you may not know anything about cacao, you may not have worked with any other plants, doesn't matter. She's meeting you wherever you are, and she brings you what you need,
Yes.
right? And then as you continue that relationship with her, it evolves. She keeps, like, you're growing, you're evolving, so she keeps with you along that path. And so there may be a deepening, and these other things may start to be revealed to you. And so all she wants is for you to be open, to that, right? Yeah.
I love that, and I resonate deeply with that in the way that also, I can at least sometimes get stuck in my mind of like, am I honoring this medicine enough? Am I misusing it? And I think it's a really important conversation, and it's important to look at, right? Am I another conquistador just coming? And also
Mm.
part of that is just really me wanting to honor something. And cacao, I really feel her not as judgmental as we are, and having that as most plants and most spirit, that broader perspective that's like, hey, with meeting people where they are, some people drink it only because of the nutrition, and
Yep.
that's totally fine.
Totally
That's
fine.
where they are. And then
Yeah.
at one point they're going to be somewhere else, and it's not about them going somewhere else, it's just that's where they are. And then for some people, it's like a psychedelic experience, and they're like, what
Right.
did you put in? And I remember being with a client on the beach, and he just felt he was turning into a jaguar, and he was like out in the water. And he was like, what what weird stuff was in that? I'm like, chocolate. But that was what he was ready for, where I actually had him in another type of plant medicine session where there was so much fear that he didn't go into it. And that's one of the things about cacao. It's
Okay.
just chocolate.
Yeah.
It's not this
Right.
layer of like heavy fear,
Right.
usually in that
Yeah.
way. But just, yeah, so this
Yeah.
meeting us where we are, not judging where we are, that's us doing that. We're humans good at that, right? And this like spiritual hierarchy and what is a better way. But I really feel her at the core of it, just being, at least when I tune into it and I'm very aligned in it, I feel cacao being like, hey, I got this. My plan is pretty big. Just step back. Don't put your hands in here. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm the chef in this kitchen, and like,
That's right.
trust me. Trust me.
Yeah.
Just trust me, and sure, take leadership, take responsibility, do things in alignment, yes. And like when you step out of alignment, go back in. But like, trust me, it's
Yeah.
everything's fine.
Yeah. Cacao is guru, right?
Yeah, yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, we actually have 2 cups of cacao that we haven't started drinking yet.
I know. I
The
know.
conversation just went.
We're,
So
we're just so excited to talk about it, but
yes. Yes.
just as excited to drink it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious about what you have in your cacao today and the cup you're drinking off. I feel like that whole ritual with cacao,
Yeah.
brewing the
So,
cacao is just as important as drinking it, right? And so yeah,
yeah.
what is in your magic brew today?
I used to add more things. And
Yes.
now, because I'm oftentimes traveling and just have less, things available, I've simplified my cacao.
Mm.
So simply it's just cacao, some water, and honey. That's it.
Mm.
Just a little honey, just to take the bitterness off the cacao. Sometimes I'll use agave. Agave is really beautiful as well.
Mm.
So that's all is in this cup, and it's just
Mm.
tastes amazing. Like people will say, well, what else is in here? I'm like, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's the cacao that has like the richness, and the, Keith is very, sort of nutty and earthy, and, the
Mm.
cacao alone, right, brings a lot of the flavor, to it. And it's just so beautiful. And then just to add a little hint of sweetness.
Mm. And also, you're in Mexico, so agave is from where you are. It
All
makes
right.
sense working with that plant there.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah, I recently added some. Usually I just, I shared it. I was in Denver, actually in Colorado, and there were a lot of vegans at the event. So
Mm.
the woman said, well, we prefer if you used agave. I'm like, I'm good with that. So I made it with agave. I think it was the best cacao I've ever made.
Oh,
It was
nice.
so good. It was so amazing.
Mm.
So let me talk about this cup. This cup
Yeah.
actually comes from Guatemala.
Mm.
So it is, like a terracotta clay.
Beautiful.
And I bought this in San Marcos, where Keith
Mm.
is. And yeah, it's one of my many. I have a few cups of different cups of
Too,
cacao, but
me too.
I love this one because it's like this bowl that I can hold in my hands, right? Yeah, lovely. So,
Mm. Nice. Well, I'm sitting with a cup I made myself. So I went to
oh, beautiful.
pottery, drank a whole bunch of cacao and made a cup, and it of course turned out very different than I thought, right? So it's this weird shaped, and red and brown colors, and in the middle of it, I like made a cacao in it, and then I showed it to my friend, and she just looked at it and she was like, "That's not a cacao, Eva. That's a yoni." So this is my cacao yoni cup, and it's so powerful.
I love it.
Yes. And my partner made a cup at the same time, and his is very straight and like streamlined. He's also
Uh,
German, so it's like a streamlined, beautiful cup. Mine that's kind of all over.
very
Um,
very masculine.
yes, 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 yes. It's like very cliche in that way. So I brewed my cacao today. I'm kind of a water geek, so I'll go around to springs, and then I work with sacred water when I brew medicine. Not all the time, but I'll add some. So what I have in here is water from a Maria spring in Germany, and then water from this spring up in northern Denmark, which is the most conscious spring I've ever encountered. It's called Ophelia Kiln. So it's that water, and then it's actually I have Keith cacao in, but I also have some Mexican cacao in from a woman I
Okay.
met in Mexico, and yeah, I love so many different types of cacao, but this one for me, she also studied with Keith actually, but the cacao is very feminine. It's very red and pink for me energetically, where I feel
Yeah.
Keith's is a little more like a parrot. It has these kind of blue and green and yellow and like, very funky, like really like he like the logo, right? It's just like
Like
that
the logo. I
logo.
was just going to say, like the logo,
It's
which is the quetzal, right?
yeah,
It's the quetzal,
yeah,
the bird of Guatemala.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that logo is just channeled, or that's
Yeah.
how I feel this cacao. But and the other one just has that very um horizontal feeling.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting just to mix a little in. Um, and then some cardamom and cayenne pepper.
I love cardamom.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do cardamom and ginger and a little
Mm.
chili pepper. And
Yeah.
there's a chili pepper that I got in Guatemala called Coban.
Mm-hmm.
It is, you have to use like the teeniest, tiniest amount because it
Mm.
is so hot. But it's
Oh,
so like it's very smoky and
yeah.
rich and earthy, and yeah,
I
really
love
beautiful.
that. I did.
Yeah.
So me and my partner, when we had our wedding, we did cacao. So we had a cacao ceremony with 80 people to begin the wedding. And the evening before, we were standing at 1 a.m. making the cacao, and I put the chili pepper, and my hand does like doom 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 doom,
Oh,
and I'm like, oh no! So I was just standing there with 4 kilos of cacao, 4 kilos of ceremonial cacao, standing and just like tasting the chili and just being like, oh yeah, this is gonna be, and it was beautiful and everybody had an amazing, but it was like chili, very chillied. Sometimes I get this with my hands and the chili and the cacao. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, the words hot mama come to mind.
Yes, hot mama, nice.
Hot mama.
Yeah, she has that sass, right? And at least
Yeah.
I feel like cacao has that, and I feel like she helps reconnect me to that in me, because I have a lot of
Yeah.
it. I was called Pippi Longstocking as a kid, and
Okay.
so really have that, but sometimes I take myself so serious, right? And everything is so serious and spiritual.
Right.
And so cacao is like, hey girl, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I don't know. It's ooh,
She can, she can be playful and really wants us to reconnect back to our joy and
yeah.
our inner child and our creativity,
Mm.
right? It's been a sort of a reclamation process for me. My when she first came to me, I said, all I asked for was more joy in my life. I said I
Mm.
would like more joy in my life, and then she showed up. It was like,
Um,
and that's exactly what she brought me,
yeah.
right? Just the stripping away of everything that was in the way, that all the defenses and the other things, the
Mm.
beliefs, that were in the way of me being reconnected, not just to my joy, but to every emotion,
Yeah.
right? To me, just to open up, to allow, right?
Yeah.
All of that connection again to my feelings, to
Yeah.
how,
And I think I do feel that most plants help us with that, but I feel she does it so powerfully. This being with the emotions in a space that isn't overwhelming us, so we can actually constructively be with them, right? And not
right.
go full on rabbit hole,
Yeah.
whatever that is. I think another
Yeah. She
plant
makes
can
it
be, yeah,
safe. She makes it
yes,
safe. Like you feel held,
yeah,
right? You feel held and supported, almost like in an embrace as
mhm,
you sit with that emotion,
yeah.
right? So, yeah, yeah, it's really beautiful.
I have this feeling that, all plants, so I work with all different type of plants, and I feel they have their own personality and their own spirit and their own energy. But if you go far enough back in that line, it all comes from the same divinity somehow. The same,
Yeah.
it's all Mother Earth or a goddess or whatever you want to call that. And but I feel that some plants are more directly connected to that divinity, and some plants are more in their personality, in their like,
Mm.
uh, you know, uh, strawberries hanging out and being nice and cute. And there's definitely divinity there, but it's that's not their main teaching. But I do feel that
Right.
like cacao is so much connected to that divinity, very straight on. I
Yes.
feel a plant like blue lotus is like that as well. um and so yeah, so just anyway, we could keep going. Here's the cacao. Ah, yeah. Well, I'll start the prayer for drinking the cacao, and then I'll invite you to share some words as well. So we'll just do
Okay.
it in our way, and I invite you, and if anybody is listening and maybe drinking cacao with us, I invite you to breathe for a moment and allowing your mind and your body to be in the same space at the same time, coming into present here. And whatever isn't relevant for this sacred space, this conversation, this ceremony can be left outside the door. And the to-do list and those things can get outside. And then in here is presence, stepping deeper into the present moment. smelling the cacao, kind of coming into those senses with cacao and inviting her in. So I want to invite the spirit of cacao. I want to really thank her for all the wisdom that she shares, all the medicine that she shares, all the healing that she shares, and also just thanking her for choosing a physical manifestation, for being on this planet. Thanking all the microorganism living in the soil, in the jungle, where the trees are growing, the trees that we're drinking from today in Guatemala. All the worms and all the nutrition, all that down in the earth. Big, beautiful cacao tree under the canopies of the other trees. The sun coming down through the leaves, the birds and the moisture that's there. The animals living around. All those beautiful hands and hearts that work with the cacao to dry it and peel it and roast it over fire. Thank you to Keith and Barbara for blessing the cacao before sending it off. Thank you to the mailman delivering it at my doorstep. To the fire that has heated it up, to the water that's in it, to the honey, to the cardamom, to the cayenne, to the cup, to the earth under my feet, the air that I breathe. May we see beauty. May we deeply listen to the wisdom of nature all around us and inside of us. May our breath be a prayer. May our words be spoken with love. May we always walk in beauty and alignment, the highest good, and with plants. Mama Nature, thank you, Mama Cacao, for supporting us, for playing with us, for being here. I really invite you to come in, to be present in this medicine. Let it be the right medicine for this moment, for us and for everybody who's listening, to really share the medicine that cacao wants to come through today. And so I would like to invite the first sip simply in awe of this amazing medicine that we're sitting with. And inviting the medicine into every cell of our bodies, like sunshine or watering a garden, so that our inner soil may be nourished and full with beautiful, loving sprouts. Yeah, may the flowers of our gardens bloom beautifully in peace. So I want to drink a sip in honor of the flowers of cacao, the flowers in our heart. May they be connected. And I want to invite in deep listening and loving words, that this conversation may be medicine, and thus drinking a sip in honor of this community, this friendship with the plants, with each other, and for all of us being students and teachers of each other. Thank you. And if you have anything you would like to call in, Nicole, please share your beautiful words.
I always thank you. You shared was so beautiful, Mama Cacao. She allows us to remember, right, who we truly are, because it's the essence of who we are has always been there, is there. And so I always ask her to support us in remembering we are whole, remembering we are loved, and remembering that we are luminous. To just sit in that place of remembrance and connection with her, holding us so gently. So to remembering who we truly are.
It's very interesting. Here in my house, there's a fly that is just suddenly really panicking, like flying around. For me, it really, I feel that's part of what cacao also teaches me, to like step out of that hyper alert, urgency, stress, whatever words, survival mode, and kind of take a breath and step deeper into the slowness, come deeper into presence with what is right now, whatever that may be. And so I feel this fly is just really here, kind of reminding me of all the noise on the outside, right? Yeah.
Well, I have Mexican music being played somewhere out there. Luckily, it's very joyful, and it's very joyful. So, and I have a beautiful breeze, just keeping me cool. I'm very appreciative of that. Yeah.
It's beautiful. How does it feel in your body now with the cacao? What do you feel?
I just feel, well, the first thing she said to me when I drank the first sip was, "Hello, darling." Yeah. So I feel brighter. I feel more present. I feel just more joyful and alive. Truly, just from having a few sips and doing this beautiful, connecting practice, right? The ritual of honoring everything that you called in and honored. And I also wanted to say, earlier we talked about what we put in our cacao, but we didn't talk about how we made our cacao.
Yeah.
Right? Because we need to do it with intention and presence. And talk, oftentimes I'll talk with her as I'm, stirring, or play beautiful sacred music. And lately it's been a lot of kirtan for some reason, and I'll sing and just make sure that there are no distractions.
Yes.
Because we all have a story of when we've made it and we haven't been fully present.
Yeah.
And it's not good. It doesn't taste right. you don't feel the connection. You might have, like, I've had people burn themselves with the water. I've had people like some people like to use a blender, and like the top of the blender came off and they had cacao all over their ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, and also even the people where I've
Like she brings you the message like that.
yes.
Just like, here's your message, right?
Yeah.
Be present.
And I'm pretty sure you heard this so many times as well, you know, and every single person that buys cacao from me, and I've been to not every, but a lot of them are just like, but it just tastes different when you make it. And I made it exactly like you, or somebody is standing with me when I'm making it. If I'm just making cacao with some of my good friends, and she's like, but I do the same. And it's like, yeah, but do you do the same in your mind, you know? And for me, that's really, it's living in the jungle, studying with a Shipibo maestro, you know. One of the things that I really learned from him was also, you know, I love singing Icaros. I love singing medicine songs, and it's one of my core practices. However, these are simply tools for manifesting things. When we are fully in alignment, we need no words. Words can be great. Songs can be great. That's amazing. But it is simply tools for us to know what to do energetically with our intention, with our imagination. And that for me is what the plants really do. I feel that all plants are expanding our consciousness.
Yes.
And yes, plants that are psychoactive like cacao, or psychedelic like ayahuasca, but also every single plant helps us open our horizons for what's possible. That work through our imaginations will be like, is this cacao or am I just making it up? And it's like, well, it comes through what you make. It's through the imagination that she speaks. So like, what do we do in our mind? And I often, when I cook with people, I often really always have to tell them to slow down.
Yeah.
To like, we're not, it's not about coming to a goal of having a cup, right? And when I stand before ceremony like you, I take my time, and most times that's where she'll tell me like, this is what's needed for this ceremony, or this is what you need to do, or like, remember this, or like, this person will need this, or it's important to have candles, or you know, this is the energy that's going to come. It's really in the brewing of medicine, and the difference between making a cup of cacao and making a cup of medicine that's actually activated, present,
Yes. Yeah.
fully in contact. And thus, even if you are in such a deep relationship with cacao like we both are, your cacao is just going to be different than mine, because your channel is different, right?
Right. I
And
say
that's
to people, you
fine.
know, my love is in this cacao.
Yeah.
My consciousness is in this cacao.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, every person, you know, like there's the consciousness of the plant itself, but then every person that has touched it along the way has also infused it with their consciousness, which is
Yes.
why it's so important where the cacao comes from
Yes.
and how it is worked with intentionally and
Yeah.
consciously all along the way. And you mentioned Keith's blessing, you know, he blesses the cacao, and then when it comes to us, we have to uphold that. We are, you know, we are the continuance of that consciousness, and holding that, and adding our own. And you know, you've probably seen the movie Like Water for Chocolate. Have you seen that? An
Um,
old movie back in the
it's
it's Spanish or Mexican. I think it's Mexican. So she puts all of her love into her food, and any emotional state that she's in goes into her food. And so she whenever so it the message is so beautiful that when we work with anything and we are creating with it, whether it's food or making cacao, we are putting ourselves into it, and people are receiving that as well. So it's so important, you know, to hold food as sacred,
yeah.
to be in loving relationship with it, because you know our consciousness and emotional state are going into the cacao. So
Yeah, we have me and my partner have this Indian mantra that we sing before food, and part of the mantra is actually saying, so Brahman is like the creator, or like you could say that, and it's actually saying, hey, everything that we're offering this food to the, basically the digestive fire, right? We're offering the food to the creator. Everything that's being offered is the creator. Everything that it's being offered to is the creator. And thus, by eating this, you become the creator. Or like that, it's all this
Right.
coming
Yeah.
back to, and I think with what you're saying of really whatever, I think always whatever we do comes into what we create, but we can do it with intention and be
Yes.
aware of it or not, right? And with different cacaos, as we talked about, I love many different cacaos, but I definitely feel like ceremonial grade cacaos we're talking about, which is, of course, that people have been honored. It's not coming from a monoculture under slave-like conditions somewhere, right? The trees have been honored, the people have been honored.
Yeah.
But even within ceremonial grade cacao, which is like a really good quality of cacao, if there isn't that straight line of, like, as I feel it, like basically a healer or a shaman or curandera that's really like centering with it, it still is just a good quality cacao. Like, or at least then I have to do more of the work.
Right.
Because
Right. Yeah.
there isn't like a maestro or maestra that's been doing that beforehand. And sometimes I can feel that some cacao, again, it's a really good quality, but there's kind of a little more chaos in it, which can
Yeah.
do something. And it's not a judgment of it. It's simply just when I get cacao, there's like this straight intention with it, it's easier for me to build on, to just, okay, here is a straight energetic line, like bam, there it
Yeah.
is. And then continuing.
Right. Absolutely.
From there.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And it comes back to that, the relationship, that
Yes.
direct experience with the plant, with cacao. For us to, we know her, she knows us, right? And then, I believe we become her, she becomes us. Like there is this like just merging, of us, so that, I like to say to, people, sort of, we become the medicine,
Yes.
right? Because we integrate, we come into relationship, we integrate the messages, we work with it, together to heal, and so then we actually are like, it changes our DNA, our cellular structure. We do become it. We are it, and we get to walk in the world as this medicine, right?
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Beautiful. And I really truly believe that we are medicine, all of us. A touch can be medicine if it is
Yeah.
intentionally with love. And that for me is really what cacao so much is teaching me every single day almost. It's really like all the magic and the intention in everything. Lighting a candle. I had when I took my yoga teacher training in India, one of the teachers was like, yoga is that you're aware of your breathing and you're present. You can do yoga when you shit. And this being present with your breath and your body when you do it. And it's kind of stuck to me, and I feel cacao not in the same way, but it's really that, like, every act of ritual, every act of honoring, and it's part of that, deeply honoring it and deeply because
Yes.
and for me, deeply honoring cacao is also deeply honoring me. And again, as a white person coming from Europe, I have really gone through, like, am I a conquistadora here? Am I coming and just taking something from indigenous people? And who am I to facilitate any type of cacao trainings and all of that? And when I really feel into the teachings of cacao, it's like, you are, because this is what the plant is teaching you. Like, the plant is my boss, the plant is my guide.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm not using songs from any traditions without permission. And it's like, obviously there's all these things around it. But I think it's just really honoring my intuition. And I feel like this is the time now. We've had times with big gurus, and we've had great ones, Gandhi, all these amazing people. And not that we don't have great leaders now, but I feel now is the time of community for us to raise up together, take responsibility and leadership, each of us, that I have to be the medicine for me, and I have to do, my thing. And for that, cacao is just like, listen to your own intuition, to your own wisdom, to the wisdom right inside. Don't go on the other side of the earth for it. It's right here. And if you want to go to the other side of the earth, do that. That's fine. But just right here in this moment, right now, you can find it.
Yeah. And we get to drink it every day, and how it's so accessible, and it, and we can integrate it into anything we do, and elevate everything we do. So it's available to everyone. So as much as there is this dark past to it with the conquistadors and just the distortion of pure cacao into the Mars bars and the Hershey bars, right? It's like we're coming back to it in its original form as this beautiful plant medicine, and honoring it and in with devotion, right? With our devotion. And so we receive it differently, and it works with us differently, and supports us as we need, to be able to, be the medicine in the world, right?
Yeah. I just really, what you're saying, all of it resonates, but what I want to add on to is two things which I feel that cacao is teaching me so much about abundance. So sometimes when I do get into like, how much is too much, and first of all, trusting my body, sometimes it'll be like, no more cacao, thank you. And it definitely also depends on my cycle, my moon cycle, but really also trusting there is enough when we're all when we all are given what we need. There is enough. The world is abundant, and that's one thing that she's really teaching me. And the other thing, we had in a conversation in a class, you and me, and one of the students, he just had this amazing perspective that I feel like sharing. And he was saying, so now I put my words to it and my interpretation of his story made into my story, but it really came from him. So I want to honor that. This, we have this idea of the dark past of cacao, conquistadores coming and the native people, and it's become this terrible, like it's basically just sugar and milk, and it's made by people in Ghana that live under slave-like conditions, and it's monoculture and all that, and people, just somebody is earning money, and you can tell that story, or tell the story which was that perspective of, what if cacao knew what she was doing? Right now, every single person on this earth probably knows about chocolate. Everybody. So right now, when we're now part of the movement that's reclaiming it as a medicine, this is such an available medicine, where if it wasn't known, it would be so much further away for normal people. But right now, if we look at it in that broad perspective, cacao is helping us reclaim the way of ceremony, the way of sacredness, the way of intention and devotion and divinity. And part of why she can do it is because it is only chocolate.
Right.
And that's the story that I'm interested in. Going out of the shame into trusting her. Like
I remember that class, and I remember how brilliant his, and I think he lived in Mexico. He was Mexican. And for him to, or at least partially, I think he was, anyway, I think he had Spanish in him, as well. But for him to come to that beautiful reframing of that, so that, he could look at it from, what if she intended this? I mean, she's been traveling for centuries, for millennia, right? They found traces of cacao in a ceremonial site in the Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. And how did she get there? Well, she was traded for turquoise, like way, way back when when they had these huge trading routes from Central America and Mexico. So I think, yeah, I think she knows what she's doing. She's like, no, no, and you can grow me any like along the equatorial line
Yes.
anywhere. Right? Like
Yes.
I'll grow in Bali. That can, be shared there, and I'll grow in Thailand. Like so. It's as if she's had this like master plan. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful perspective also of not putting any extra, yeah, just coming back to trust with the medicine, right?
Mhm. And when we had this conversation in class, we also talk about what is your intention. So, as we've said or earlier, you can make a cup of cacao, and if you don't put your full attention and intention into it, it's not going to taste like yours or mine, and it's not going to bring you really, much more than being a nice cup of cacao, right? So, with just what is your intention of holding and working with this medicine? Not just in making it, but in serving it, in sharing it. What is your intention? And when you are pure in that intention, right? That's when the magic shows up, right? That's when people feel and receive from cacao,
Yeah.
in that way, whatever they need.
Yeah, I feel it's such a master teacher of giving us the medicine that we need right now,
Mm-hmm.
right here, right now, both in our bodies with, I remember in another class, we had there was one of the ladies that was very technical, and she was like, there's more calcium in cacao than there's in cow milk. There's like 40 times more antioxidant in cacao than there's in blueberries. And she had like all these great, great ones, but like really giving our body this super amazing mixture of magnesium and iron and like everything that's in it, on top of, as you said in the beginning, her helping us expand into whatever we're connecting with, right?
Yeah.
And it's really up to us. What is our intention? What is our prayer? And that's really our responsibility. Then what happens, right? Or not, yeah, but just this, it's us to co-create it with her. It's not
Yeah.
a movie we put on and then something happens. No, it's a dance together. And that's where it really becomes magic, when she empowers us and we empower her. And together it's a collaboration, it's a partnership. And I feel, and you might feel the same, I feel cacao is my partner and also sometimes my boss.
Yeah. I've
And
said to people, she can be real. We often talk about the love and the
yeah.
bliss. I said, and then sometimes she kicks your ass. Like
Yes.
she just, it's like, you're not listening. Let
Yeah.
me say it a little louder.
Yeah, yeah. No, I want one of those cacao ceremonies right now where it's all just nice that I can dance around. And it's like, why is it scratching? Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Something's scratching. Oh, something's coming. Okay. Come on. Okay, come on with it. I'm here. I'm ready. I'll listen.
Something that she, from the very first time I drank cacao, which was in a personal ceremony held as a shamanic journey, that night, my dreams were so powerful. I was receiving, I think I did most of my shadow work in my dreams rather than in ceremony. And so she would just bring things up into my awareness so powerfully through my dream time. And that happened for months. And I kept a separate dream journal, and I just worked really with my dreams because I was receiving as much healing and as many messages in my dream time. It was
It's
really
beautiful.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
think also both you and me have had conversations about, as I call them, kind of the spiritual hangovers that can come the day after ceremony. Like we have a tendency to believe that all the magic is in ceremony, right? But what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about is, what about the brewing? What about the harvesting? All of that before, but also after.
Yeah.
If there's things that I haven't dealt with, I'll get a headache. And of
Yeah.
course, there's also the physicality, and there can be contraindications and stuff. But most of the time, she's just removing everything that is disconnecting me from her and from myself. And by her doing that,
Yeah.
that can happen for days. That can happen in all these ways afterwards. And I think that's another thing about working with plants as medicine, that we have to, again, like expand that horizon of what is the journey. It isn't just within the 3 or 4 or 5 hours
Mm-mm.
of
Yeah.
ceremonial space. It's all of it, and it plays with
Yes.
everything we're in. So if we're arguing with our partner, that's part of it. If
Right.
an email comes in that's uncomfortable, that's part of it.
Yeah.
And
I will say to people, there's a message in everything.
yeah,
Notice what shows up after ceremony.
yeah,
Whether it's in your dream time, whether it's that email, whether it's, the argument with your partner, whatever, notice it. It's that there's more there, and don't dismiss it.
yeah,
Don't blame it. Look at it.
yeah,
What is it really telling you? And I'm the same. Like my first experiences with cacao, the next day, I would wake up and I would have a raging headache. And I had to just treat myself so gently that next day. I couldn't do anything. Oftentimes would rest and nap, but I knew from the first time it happened, because I tend to be a little analytical and in my head and think a lot. She was shoving me into my head so
yeah,
much that I couldn't think. Right? When you have a headache, you can't think. Like it was just, so I knew, and I said, that's okay. I know what this is. And it didn't stop me from drinking my next, you know, uh, cacao fully and completely in ceremony, because I knew. And eventually it went away
yeah,
because of my attention to it, right? My recognition that that was the message.
yes. I've
And the
definitely,
same shows up like when people get, some people feel a little sick to their stomach or
I
nauseous.
was
And it's
about
like,
to mention that. Yeah,
right. So
yeah,
that's like what emotion is stuck and wants to move. It's calling for your attention,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, nausea is great. I mean, in the way, so I work with, I work with other plant medicines, and just nausea is great because people really hate nausea. It's like
They
the one
really
thing you
hate
can
it.
press on human beings that they just find the most annoying, usually.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
And so it's like the worst messenger ever. And it's great in the way when you really come into acknowledging it as a messenger.
Yeah.
And I feel that a lot, actually, a lot with the gut things. I know so many, especially women, having like really bloated or like all these
Yeah.
things. And oh, then I can't eat gluten or I can't eat dairy, or there's all these things. And we remove things and we go away from the nourishment. And sometimes just like what I need is the meal that my dad made me when I was 10. That's what my inner child needs to feel safe right now. And it's not about gluten or meat or whatever, but like it's about something else. And
Right.
so seeing nausea and seeing all those gut things really as a messenger just takes it to a completely different level of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is about me being with myself and listening. And here is an consciousness down here. We even say trust your gut, right? And like this consciousness that I'm not listening to. So
Right.
what is it? And there I think, as we said in the beginning, that working with that with cacao, I feel cacao has this amazing ability to expand the space, so there's peace around it, so I can dive into those deep waters without being overtaken by the fear or the anger or all of it, but I can be kind in it. And also working with it with my partner, for instance, if we have anything going on, and drinking a cup of cacao just helps us go
Yeah.
through that together in the most loving way. Um, And I really, sometimes with plant medicine, I feel especially people doing other type of spiritual practices have a tendency to say it's like a cheating code. Like you're cheating. And for me, it's always funny. It's like a little, well, great, but I don't believe in the cheating codes. We have to do the embodiment. We have to do the integration,
Yeah.
no
Yep.
matter what it is. And the way
Right.
that it can seem like a cheating code is because it will be someone who has done the work, done their own practice, done their therapy, and then jump into the space of plant medicine, and it just takes a quantum leap because they're doing the work.
Yep.
Can't keep that vibration. If they're not doing the work, then they fall down again, And so cacao just helps us one step at a time, one steady pace,
Mm-hmm.
being it, be the medicine, be the medicine, be the medicine. And there's no cheating. It's allowed to be nice. It's allowed to taste good. It's allowed to be fun. It's allowed to be nourishing. It doesn't have to be hard to be on a
Right.
spiritual journey, right?
Right.
That is such a cacao teaching for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
there anything you feel as we're like slowly easing towards an ending? If there anything you feel is important to share or to
Mm.
invite in?
Yeah. I mean, you sort of talked for a moment about cacao and its, nutrients,
Mm.
right, as a superfood, right? And it has all of that, right? So you're putting with one, even drinking like 1 ounce or 28 grams of cacao, you get your daily magnesium. And
Mm-mm-mm.
we are magnesium deficient, right? Which is why we have trouble sleeping and why we have trouble pooping and why we have trouble doing lots of things because it's
Yeah.
supportive of, so much of your entire system. And so there's that aspect, right? Like you're just putting so much goodness that your body needs, into your body. And then there's, the psychoactive compounds, that are also present that allow us to, if we need to know why we're feeling the way we're feeling. And oftentimes when I'm, in ceremony, and, a lot of times my ceremonial participants have never had cacao, or they've heard of ayahuasca or psilocybin, and they're like, "Oh, is cacao a psychedelic?" And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's a psychoactive." And then I share what that means for them so that I like to say, I feed the mind, right? So that we can feed the soul.
Yeah.
Because once we let go of, any anything that we're not perceiving correctly about it, or fear or doubt or whatever's in the way of us actually having the experience, right? That full invitation, that full opening, that full welcoming of, of cacao. All of that gets in our way. But when we can open by feeding the mind so that we're like, oh, people relax. Oh, that's what I'm putting into my body, right? Yeah. So I often like to sort of talk about the big three, as we say, right? Do you want to go there? Do you want to talk about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
big
yeah.
three?
Do it. Do it. Do
Okay. So this is going to get I am not a science person, so I'll just, highlight a few things,
We'll just get a
but
little nerdy. It's good.
a little nerdy, yeah.
Nerdy. That's great.
So like the three things really that are important to know that that come in cacao and that you're putting into your bodies. The first one is anandamide. And those of you in the yoga world that know Sanskrit, ananda means bliss, right? So there is, it's called the bliss molecule, or it's a neurotransmitter. So we're actually, drinking that with our cacao, and what it's allowing is us to enter a blissful state in our body because it's an endocannabinoid, right? So it's not THC, but it's acting on the same receptor that THC does, right? So we feel a little bit blissful, right? We just feel that sense. And then the second one is phenylethylamine, or shortened PEA, and that's the love chemical. So that's the chemical our body naturally produces when we fall in love. So you know how you get kind of silly and just so focused on that person, and you just have like these just feelings flooding your body. Cacao is releasing that inside of us, so we become very focused and attentive, and just feel like a sense of like love, right? This unconditional love in our bodies. And then the last thing is theobromine. So we all know caffeine, right? So theobromine is like the cousin to caffeine. So caffeine, right? But the good cousin, right?
The fun one, the nice one, the one you
The
want to hang out
fun,
with.
yeah. It's a central nervous system stimulant. So we get a little wired and jittery, and then we crash, right? Theobromine is like this, it's a cardiovascular stimulant. So think about that. Central nervous system stimulant, cardiovascular stimulant, heart opener, heart expander, vasodilator. So our blood is flowing better in our entire body. So we're actually sort of going into like this beautiful flow state within ourselves, right? And so everything is just more open, more expansive, more flowing.
Yeah. So it's also just with that, it's so interesting. We talk about it as a heart opening medicine, and the spirit
Right.
chooses a physical form that physically opens our heart, like
Right.
opens the blood
Right.
to flow to our heart.
Right.
So it is a heart opening medicine on all levels.
Literally. Right.
Literally.
Right. So I love to say to people, you're putting a little bliss, a little love, and a little expansion
Yeah.
into your body. Like who doesn't want all of that?
Yep.
Right? Just by drinking cacao. Yeah.
I had a teacher who told me, and so I don't know where it comes from, but I really like the story. And she said, when what's it called? When the semen and the egg meet each other, conception? Is that the name?
Yeah.
When conception happens, the body releases anandamide to give new life the best possibility for new
Oh,
creation.
wow.
So actually,
Wow.
when we create new, the universe want to give us the most blissful experience of something new. So that's what we're kind of releasing, right? Potentially. And I
Right.
feel it's kind of the same, like some of this research that's been done. When you have your hands in good soil, it has to be good, healthy soil. The
Yeah.
seed gets released in the body as when a woman is breastfeeding her child. We're so connected to mama nature, and cacao does some of those things. So this, as you said, we're feeling held, we're feeling safe, we're feeling unconditional love. And for most
Yeah.
people, however good our parents were, they live in this world that has all the chaos that it does.
Yeah.
That is just such a powerful medicine to be able to feel unconditionally loved. Like,
Yeah.
that's master healer.
Yeah. That was my first experience. She broke me open. I think the first hour of ceremony, I cried, and I don't tend to do a lot of that. And I was sobbing. I was like just holding myself, and then felt her presence and felt the unconditional love of being held. And that has stayed with me, so powerfully since that first, literally the first time I drank cacao.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just flooded with it. I mean, there's more to the story, and it gets, it gets a little out there. So I don't know how out there you want to get, but I actually feel that in that moment, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I healed my mother wound
Wow.
from that love, because I felt the cacao spirit in my body, like physically. Like she went from holding me to being inside of me. And then of course my rational brain goes, how do I get her out of me? Why I would want to, I don't know. And then I actually birthed her.
Wow.
I birthed her. And it was in that, then I started just to notice that my relationship with my mother was totally different.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah.
And I mean, I even feel, I was dieting cacao, and I was doing it by myself, so being my own maestra in Peru, and the diet itself, I wasn't that connected, and I'm used to being very, very connected all the time, right? So when I feel a little disconnection, I'm like, what's happening? And all my da 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 starts. And the day after I ended my diet, of kind of a disappointing diet, or like a feeling of that, was this it? The day after, I felt my whole energy system was just like new vibration, just like stepping up in abundance. So completely the day after, like just one thing that had been, for instance, was I was like, oh, I have so much to share, so much about the plants, and why am I not in all these podcasts, and why aren't all these people coming to me? I just want to sit barefooted in the forest and play my guitar. And then the day after the diet, I ended it in the morning, sat with, like ended it in the morning, thank you, cacao. And then just the thought, like, bam, hey, you have to do the work. So find a podcast and write the person yourself. I opened my phone. There's an email from someone saying, oh, I was in this podcast. It's like, okay, go into the podcast. Oh, spiritual podcast in Denmark. This looks great. I write her, hey, can I come and talk about cacao? And she answers, half an hour later, that sounds great. When do you want to come? And just like, this whole mind game I'd been playing with myself about
Right.
flow and abundance, and cacao just like, let's just fix that one. Duk, duk, bam. And then from there, it just like, it was just a new level. It was just in another level. I that scarcity isn't returning. I'm just not there anymore.
No, right.
It's
Yeah,
just,
I just got goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Next level. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's we don't even know just how expanded we can be.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes people, like some people sort of poo-poo, like they'll sort of say, oh, what does heart opening mean? Right? Like they kind of like, especially people, who need the medicine probably more than others, they'll go, I don't understand what heart opening means. And I'm like, well, no one thinks their heart is closed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but you have no idea how open your heart can be.
Yes.
Right? Like it is like chamber upon chamber upon chamber of just opening, right? And I think people fear that then that they're going to feel too much, or they're going to be too vulnerable, or it's like it's the exact opposite. It's like you will feel everything, but able to hold everything. You will be able to be in relationship in a different way and hold your boundaries in a different way, because you have access to what you care about and what you value, and you set your boundaries from there, right? So it's misperceived what that means. And so it's like, this is what cacao allows for, is just this expansive heart, expansive consciousness. Yeah.
And I'm just thinking with what you're saying there, and that's also why it's so important that she takes us where we are, because we will only get the expansion that we're ready for and that we can hold.
Yeah.
And if it's too much, it will fall down again. It's like with everything, that's why it's integration medicine and embodied medicine, because we do have to walk the steps. There's no cheating codes here. Like, we all have to learn to be present. We all have to learn whatever shape of meditation or presence or whatever we want to call it, being here, being now, being in alignment with our truth and our soul. And she helps us and she guides us. But if we don't take the steps, it's not going to expand. But when we then take the steps, it's like accelerating everything. And just one chamber at a time. And also the chambers that's like all the sorrow, all the whatever. But cacao helps us be with that in a way.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And like yesterday, I feel it several times, but it's really coming back to me. And it was really in cacao. I feel so many people are talking about, when did it go wrong? Like, when did we humans, you know, Adam and Eve, or if you believe in alien consciousness, at one point we were in harmony. When did all this bad stuff come that disconnected us, that fucked everything up? When did it come? And what keeps coming back to me, and it feels like such a cacao voice when it comes in my mind, it's like, what made you believe that you're out of harmony? Like, what makes you believe in the bigger, bigger, bigger picture, that every time you do an offbeat, you're just creating a new rhythm? Like, you cannot not sing the song of the universe. It's all part of it. And of course, suffering is real, and I'm not like neglecting that, and I'm in a very privileged state where I'm sitting. But what I mean is that cacao helps me see the beauty of my suffering, and not getting so caught in the wheel of it, but more just seeing it as it is. And this judgment of good or bad, wrong or right, is just such a human thing. And even seeing that as like, oh, here I am again doing this mind thing, want to put a hierarchy to it, and just again, just relax, lean back, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, she just so beautifully makes us, you know, more aware,
Yeah.
right? Like just gradually just opening our awareness so that we can, you know, see when our mind is engaged, see, you know, see all these things and then choose to work with it. So, and you know, you're so right, we have to do the work, right? And there are levels of expansion, and you get to one place, and then there's more to go, right? And there aren't, you know, you know, I can't remember the word you use, but cheats, or, you know, but people here, you know, in the US call them hacks. Let's hack, you know, that thing. And it's like, you can't hack this. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
But the more committed you are to it, you know, it can happen pretty fast.
Yeah.
And you can get on an accelerated path, right? You know, whether even with cacao. I remember I only worked with cacao. I had never worked with any other plants or psychedelics. I did all my work with cacao, and it went fast because I was so committed to doing the work and to following the things, like then working with my dreams and then studying Jungian psychology and shamanism. And so all of that, it was like this alchemy, just like cacao is an alchemy of all of the things we've talked about. All of that work alchemizes, right? And allows you to do the work, you know, in a more accelerated way if you're looking to do it. And it'll slow you down so you can integrate. It'll go, time to integrate. And there'll be times where you have a dark night of the soul and you lose, you know, your faith and your trust. And then you just rise again and you find some other way to reconnect. And, you know, that's the journey. Like that's it. Right. But I find it I find it interesting, you know, people who are of that mindset of wanting the hack or the trick, or, you know, whatever that is, you know, give me the cheating codes. It's like, it just doesn't work that way. You have to find your way, right? And you know, even in the other plant medicine work I do, I have, and I can, you know, these clients come and I can tell they may have been in therapy for a long time, and they're so ready, right, to break that pattern, you know, to you know, whatever's holding them back. They are so ready, and yet there's a part of them that believes that it is a one and done. I'll do one journey with this plant medicine and I will be fixed and healed. And I have to say to them, that's not the way it works. You will get part of the way there, and then you will need to come back and come back, because these things are deep. Right? You can't just uncover them all at once, right? The plant medicine knows, right, what it's doing, and it's going to, and of course the expectation always is that they're disappointed after that first one because they didn't get what they wanted. It's like, come back. Come back, right? And cacao's beautiful because she can be with you like that entire time, right? And just, you know, and doing that work with you. So yeah.
But I think that that for me is really essential in my work with whatever plants it is. It's
Yep.
all about our relationship to it. Like when we
Right.
relate to the earth, and that's what I'm so passionate
Yeah.
about, helping people, respectful, nourishing, healthy relationships with the earth. And it's through those relationships that we heal. So whether it's a
Yes.
relationship to cacao or a relationship to a partner or a teacher, it's like it's through that we heal. And so
Yes.
these medicines, I feel at the core, it also goes in, like it is through our relationship that a lot of our deep trauma happens in our childhood and in our
Yeah. Yeah.
lives. And it's
Absolutely.
through
Yep.
that when we then start relating to plants, all of that comes up again, right? All of that comes because it's so innately in how we relate to anything in the world. And so when they help expand that
Yep.
for us and help bring sweet medicine into every single line, that's what's that's what heals as I feel it. So whether that's chamomile or calendula
Yep.
or cacao or ayahuasca, it's the relationship, and it's not the one ceremony as we talked about. It's the whole journey. A
Right.
relationship isn't like we meet one time. No, and I call you once in a while and I say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And I ask, and I
The
love,
one time is like it's a one night stand. It's
yes,
like
exactly.
how fulfilling is that?
Yes, how, that's not, I totally agree with that. And I love when I get to the space with cacao, with any other plants where I get out of my own way and I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? Like how is
Right.
it to be cacao? And not so like, help me, help me, help me, heal me, heal me, heal me, but like, hey, I just want to hang a little. Can we
Yeah.
relate? Can we be together? And when I'm from that place, what my prayer isn't give me, but the prayer is thank you, that just
Yeah.
takes everything to a
Yeah.
completely different level, completely different
Yeah.
layer. And that's like, for me, such a different healing experience. It's like I don't even have to go into the suffering because it's just beyond.
No.
It's just
Yeah.
already another step.
That first ceremony that I mentioned to you earlier about the healing that I received around unconditional love, in it, after I'd finished sort of releasing, I felt the presence of the cacao spirit, and I invited her to sit in my lap.
Oh, wow.
And I said, you must be so tired
Mm.
helping all these people. So, as you said, coming in this beautiful, I was holding her as she was holding me,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
relationship. That's reciprocity. And that's where the magic
Yeah.
happens, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I
Exactly.
feel like every single person who comes into whatever space you're holding with that medicine can feel that you're a partnership, you're a friendship. And it's not you using it, but you're with it.
Yeah.
It's with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it, it shows up in how you speak about her, about, like where you're speaking from. I've had other, I have a cacao community and they've come to ceremony for a long time. And then with me being gone from the US for a while, they're trying to go to someone else's ceremony and they're like, Nicole, it is not the same.
No.
Because they know that person is not in true relationship, is not in sacred relationship with the medicine. And it shows, they feel it, they sense it. It's in everything. It's in your energy. It's in your consciousness. It's in how you speak about something. It's how you share it, how you, everything. And we're such, we are humans. We feel with every, every part of our being. So we know when someone's in relationship
Yeah.
and when they're not.
Yeah.
I've even had people call me Mama Cacao. You are Mama Cacao. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that as a facilitator is really also one of the really um points to be really aware of, right? Because when we're so in deep relationship to this plant, we're channeling that plant, and people get these
Yep.
really deep experiences and continually saying, hey, this is cacao doing this, this is you doing this is nature doing this, I am simply the guide here.
Yes.
And also, it's not just buying a block of chocolate, like that's not what's happening here, because it is also all the work that we have been doing for years. and that we do
Yeah.
every single day with
Yes.
cultivating that deep relationship within ourselves. That is medicine, and that's what we share. And so, yes, it is the cacao doing all of it, and it's us practicing to be the best possible channels for that. And it's the co-creation of that that
Yes.
brings the magic. And as you said with the food, the secret ingredient is always love. It's like no food is the same. That is it. Love,
That's it.
relation.
Yeah,
That's it.
absolutely. I used to have a former boyfriend years ago, and he would say, Nicole, can you make me a sandwich? And I'm like, make your own sandwich. No. My sandwiches don't taste like your sandwiches because I would make them with love, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Mm.
Yeah.
I feel like we could go on forever.
We could.
We could. Great thing we're in community together. As always, it's such a pleasure talking with you and just being in this space.
Thank you.
I want to just, for whoever's listening, if people feel inspired to work with you in any way, how can they find you? Or, what do you offer? We're going to put some links also. So there will be some links, but just can you?
Yeah.
It becomes very human.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram as Cacao Wisdom. And then I have a website, which, I have a website because I have to have a website. It's soulscapecoaching.com. And then, on there you can reach me. Nicole at soulscapecoaching.com is one of my emails. So it's a good way to reach out. So I'm available on any of those channels, so to speak. So
beautiful. And that's also where you can go and read more about Nicole if you feel interested to work with her in a private setting or more group setting, I guess, as well, in Mexico and California, and also online, right?
Yes. So I travel back. I'm actually traveling back to California at the end of this month. I'll be there back in that area for 2 months. And then popping back to Mexico, Baja, Mexico, every so often. But I'm a little nomadic at the moment, so I'm also open to. I'm going to Virginia to hold some group sessions with some other plant medicine in September. So so I do travel as well because this work just needs to be shared. So
well, if you ever come to Denmark or Europe, give me a holla.
I will, but I'll definitely do it in the summertime.
Yes, do that.
I'm from Canada originally, and I gave up winter a long time ago, so it's very hard on me.
I actually, by being so often in Peru in the winter, I can feel it's almost like my body is needing the winter. I'm missing kind of a hibernation, like bodily, of like that really rest. And I don't mean like if you work from 8 to 9, like 8 to 9, 8 to 4 every day in the winter, that's not hibernation, but like as a self-employed, you do have the pleasure of being able to slow down. Yeah, and with me, I work with cacao in most of my offerings online and also in Denmark, sometimes in Peru. In a few months, I will do actually an online cook-along, a free online cook-along where people can come with me in the kitchen and exactly go into like some of the magic of cooking it, which I'm really excited about sharing. It's like, okay, let's do it. That question, why is it different? Like let's go into it. And then in the autumn, I'm going to start a shamanic cacao facilitator training, which is both like a 10 days cacao diatao quest in the nature of Denmark. It's this beautiful retreat place in the middle of nature, like right in the middle of a forest. There's this old mansion, like huge mansion owning it, this tiny house. So it's this old, I don't know, 200 years old house or something. You can just feel it's really beautiful. And then an online cacao training, which is based on the cacao training that Nicole has made for Keith Cacao. So that's super exciting as well. And then I do cacao ceremonies around Copenhagen once a month, and also online sessions. So there's a lot with cacao, with other medicines, if anybody feels the call. Yeah. Feel like closing the space.
Yes.
I'm sitting, holding my womb, feeling my body. I want to give thanks to this moment, to cacao, for being part of this conversation, for being talked with and about. For you, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your energy, and your connection here. Thank you to anybody who's listening. Thank you to the technology gods for not shutting it all down in the middle of it, which I was nervous about. And for the future, thank you to the technology gods for making like the sound quality good.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
really like a prayer. I just really want to share this conversation with whoever needs it, and hope that it will enrich their life, help them create this loving, kind, nourishing relationship with cacao, for us to reclaim our medicine ways on this earth, in whichever way we are the medicine. So thank you. Thank you for the breath. Thank you. Do you want to add anything, Nicole?
I'm just so grateful to work with this medicine, to carry it and share it out into the world, and to be a part of such a vibrant, conscious, heart-centered community that gathers. And gosh, we just love being with each other. And Eva, you are one of those, one of those very special people that has come into my life because of cacao. And I'm so grateful for that relationship, that connection, and the deepening that we've done here. So thank you to share about cacao. It's my honor, my privilege, my delight, my joy. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.